Here we have a vehicle that requires no introduction. This is a 2006 Hummer H3. Beautiful yellow color, as you can obviously see. And the reason why this truck really doesn't need any introduction, well, there are many reasons for that. First of all, we can thank Governor Schwarzenegger for having purchased one in the 90s and basically decided to make it a family vehicle, which is evidently not, but at the time it could have worked out. GM agreed, they made it, they called it the H1. GM was very happy with the success that the H1 had, so what they did is that they introduced the H2, and then that was so popular, and it was so big though, and it looked bad, it was an evil SUV. GM went a step further and introduced the baby Hummer, the H3. So what they did is they took the platform from their pickups, the Canyon and the Colorado. They took the same engine, which is perhaps maybe one of the sorest points of this Hummer. It's an inline 5-cylinder 3.5 liter, puts out 220 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque. Now, when coupled with the 4-speed automatic transmission, it works hard. I have to say it works quite hard to move this 4,700 pound vehicle up to speed. However, it sounds pretty good, so they must have tweaked the exhaust somewhere. This specific H3 has the Adventure package, otherwise you could call it the off-roading package. It'll give you the mammoth 33-inch tires, obviously the all-wheel drive system with the 2-speed transfer case. It'll give you the skid plates and a few other accessories that will basically guarantee you that you'll get out of just about any tough spot, be it mud, rocks, or in this case, snow. With the Adventure package as well, you get some specially tuned shocks, which do two things basically. It'll give you more composure or more control when you're going off-roading, but it'll also stiffen up the ride tremendously when you're driving on the road. So basically you're going to be bouncing up and down when driving. So if you can get used to that, that's fine. It's a compromise that you have to expect, A, because it's a Hummer, and 2, well, you have the Adventure package. On the road, after you've been noticed by everybody, well, you'll notice, like I've mentioned, that the ride is a little bit bouncy, but it's surprisingly stable on the highway, even with the big knobby tires. On the highway, even at speeds, say, slightly above the legal limit, it's not that bad. There's a little bit of tire noise, but it's still relatively comfortable. Steering is nicely weighted, fairly precise actually for a truck in this category, and I'd have to say it's probably one of the better ones that I've tested in the recent years. Brakes, just the way I like them. GM will never let me down, maybe once they have, but the pedal is firm, the power is pretty good, although you have to think about it a little bit ahead of time when you're coming down from a high speed, because again, like I said, it's a very heavy vehicle. It's not that bad to drive. I mean, if you go through the plateau in Montreal, which is not where we are right now, obviously, you won't actually take a city block with you when you're turning around a corner. So when they say that it's actually maneuverable, well, they're not lying. The H3's cabin is actually quite nice. I'm very happy to see what I'm looking at. The choice of materials are nice. They look good. Fit and finish is maybe slightly above average. It's not perfect, but it's quite close. The aluminum finish adds a nice, I guess, masculine touch to the interior of the truck. The materials for the seats, I really like the cloth. It's a white, gray, and black. It looks really nice. And not to mention, the seats are actually comfortable, supportive. The steering wheel is big and meaty. And lo and behold, there are no controls on the wheel because you're going to be wrestling with the wheel and you're going to be off-roading. I love that touch. The single CD player doesn't have the XM radio on it. Sound is not bad though, I have to admit, but it's kind of lacking that extra touch to maybe justify that big $45,000 price tag. Otherwise, there's a lot of room, headroom, legroom, it's pretty good. Second row seats are good also. The only problem with the trunk, which is a fairly good size, is a very high lift over, but this is a truck again, so you have to expect that there's a lot of ground clearance here, about 8.5 inches of ground clearance, so that's what you have to expect. Otherwise, the cabin is quite nice. I was very happily surprised of the fit and finish and the actual quality look of the whole ensemble. Aesthetically speaking, well, the H3 carries over every styling cue basically from the H1 and the H2. You want to buy a Hummer, you can't afford the big one, well, you can get the small one, you get the exact same package. You get the little humps on each side of the hood, which nobody really knows what they're for on this one. And you get the signature grille, which is obviously very important if you want to be seen driving around in a Hummer. One of the beautiful things about the H3 is that you can basically customize it to make it look like and do just about anything you want. With most accessories, you can easily increase the price by 50% on a truck, $60,000. You get the push bar, you get different wheels, you get a roof rack, you get just about everything, and you'll be pimping for sure in your Hummer. But obviously, it's not a big truck, but it's still a heavy truck, and it's got a smallish engine, so fuel consumption is very important. I'm looking at about 16 liters per 100 kilometers at the moment right now, and while the issue is always fuel prices, the existence of the H3 is still questionable, but people are still buying SUVs, so GM at this point is just going to give people what they want. They asked for a smaller Hummer, here it is. It's not a bad vehicle. Its mechanicals are not exactly proven, but as far as long-term or even short-term reliability, I can't think of anything particularly wrong with the truck. The automatic transmission does a beautiful job of shifting. It is still missing that all-important fifth gear, but generally I don't assume that there will be some big problems with the truck.